The billionaire stepped out of his sleek car, adjusting his cufflinks, as the crowd in the marketplace parted. Out of curiosity, cameras sometimes followed him, but today he wanted nothing more than quiet. Yet, as he passed the rows of vendors calling out their prices, his eyes froze on one man standing behind a small wooden stall. His clothes were worn, his hands rough from years in the sun, but the smile on his face as he arranged fish on the table was unmistakable. The billionaire's breath caught college. He whispered, almost to himself. The vendor looked up at the sound, his brow furrowing for a moment before his eyes widened. Recognition flashed across his face. He dropped the knife he had been using to clean a fish and wiped his hands on his apron. "Can't be," he said, his voice trembling. The billionaire moved closer, his own composure slipping as he took in the face of the man who once shared books, late into the night, argued about dreams over cheap noodles, and promised the future would never break them. They stood in silence for a moment. Two lives stretched far apart now, colliding in the middle of a crowded street. The vendor finally broke the silence with a small laugh. You wear the world now, and me I sell fish." His tone carried no bitterness, only truth. The billionaire's throat tightened. He reached out, gripping his friend's shoulder firmly. "No, my brother, you wear something more. You wear survival." The crowd around them leaned in, curious, as the two men embraced, one dripping in wealth, the other in sweat, but both bound by a past no fortune could erase. ChatGPT said. The billionaire pulled back from the embrace, his eyes glassy though he tried to hide it. He looked around at the stall, at the fish laid out on cracked wood, at the small bucket of melting ice struggling to keep them fresh. His chest tightened. "How long have you been here?" The vendor shrugged, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. "Since life decided I couldn't afford dreams anymore." Those words cut deeper than any insult could. The billionaire remembered the boy who once stood beside him in lecture halls full of ambition. He whispered, "You were the one who taught me never to give up. And now I find you here giving up on yourself." The vendor gave a small, tired smile. "I didn't give up. I adapted dreams and don't feed families." The billionaire clenched his fists, his own reflection flashing in the glossy eyes of the fish on the table. He lowered his voice, but every word shook. "I walked into boardrooms because I had someone who once believed I could. You were that someone. If I stand tall today, it is because you lifted me when I stumbled, and now I will not leave you here." The vendor blinked in shock, his lips parting, but no sound escaping. The marketplace had gone silent, all eyes fixed on them. The billionaire placed both hands on the stall, his gaze fierce. "You gave me courage when I had none. Now let me give you back the future you deserve." The vendor shook his head quickly, disbelief flashing across his face. "I don't need your pity," he said, his voice rough with pride. The billionaire leaned closer, his tone steady but filled with fire. "This isn't pity, this is a debt I have carried for years. You once shared your last meal with me when I couldn't afford one. You gave me books when I had nothing but empty pockets. Don't you dare think I forgot." The vendor's eyes flickered pain and pride warring in his chest. He whispered, "That was friendship, not charity." The billionaire's voice softened. "Then let me be your friend again. Not the man in the suit, but the boy you once believed in." He turned toward the crowd, raising his voice loud enough for every ear to hear. "From this day forward, this stall will not remain on a broken street corner. It will become the foundation of something greater. He slipped a card from his wallet, pressing it into his friend's calloused hand. Tomorrow we start together, not with pity, but with partnership. Vendor stared at the card, then at the face he once knew in classrooms full of hope. His lips trembled. Why would you do this? The billionaire's eyes glistened. Because you never stopped believing in me. Now it's my turn to believe in you. The crowd erupted in whispers, some smiling, some wiping their eyes, but all knowing they had witnessed something rare. A man who had climbed to the top, choosing not to forget the one who once walked beside him. The next morning, the vendor arrived at the marketplace, as always. But instead of a rickety stall, he found a brand new refrigerated stand gleaming under the sun. Beside it stood the billionaire waiting in a plain shirt, not his usual suit. His friend froze, unable to speak. The billionaire smiled softly. You gave me dignity when I had none. Today I return it. He handed him documents neatly bound, a business license, a lease for a shop in his name, and the promise of a future bigger than the cracked wood and melting ice of yesterday. The vendor's hands shook as he flipped through them, his voice breaking. I never asked for this. The billionaire placed a hand on his shoulder firmly. I know that's why you deserve it. Tears welled in the vendor's eyes as the crowd gathered again, whispers of awe spreading through the marketplace. He gripped his old friend's hand tightly, unable to hide the sob that escaped. You've given me back my life. The billionaire's throat tightened, but he whispered back, no, brother. You gave me mine long ago. I'm only giving it back. The two men embraced once more, this time not as a reunion of past, but as a bond for the future. The marketplace erupted in applause. Strangers moved to shake the vendor's hand. Children tugged at his sleeve with smiles. And for the first time in years, he stood tall, not just as a seller of fish, but as a man whose worth had finally been seen. If this story moved you, share it, so others never forget that one selfless act can rewrite a destiny in ways no one sees coming.